Merry Christmas, you guys. It is the end of the year. And what do leaders love to do at the end of the year? We love to pause in the busyness of the season to grab our journals, grab a pen, and if you're me, I like to grab a hot drink and just carve out a few minutes to sit down and reflect. Reflect on what has happened this year. How have you grown this year? What has God done in your life this year? This is your invitation to take a few minutes right now with me in this video and ask yourself these 5 questions to close the year before you enter into the new year. This is your moment to finish strong. So go grab your journal, grab a pen, grab a hot drink, and meet me back here. Okay, you have your journals? If you don't, it's okay. Let me encourage you to listen to these 5 reflective questions to ask yourself at the end of the year. And if you haven't bought into reflection, you don't quite believe that it's a valuable exercise and that it's worth your time and your energy, let me encourage you to stay to the end of this video where I will present to you 3 reasons why I think reflection will benefit you. Okay, but first let's go through the 5 reflection questions that everybody should ask at the end of the year. You can write these questions at the top of the page, and if you want, you can pause this video and answer these questions right now. Or what you can do is watch the full video, write each question at the top of a new page, so you'll have 5 pages in total, and then come back and answer each question for as long as you want to spend on it in your own time. Okay? So the first question you can write at the top of the first page is, how have I changed for the better this year? How have I changed for the better this year? In other words, how have I grown? A helpful way to answer this question might be to consider the various roles that you fulfill in your life every day. For example, one of the roles that you fulfill is that of a student. So how have you grown as a student this year? Have you gone to more office hours? Have you paid attention more in classes? Have you spent more time on your homework? Have you started homework earlier or finished homework earlier? Have you put together a study group to help you to get through the work? How have you grown to be a better student this year? Another role that you fulfill is that of a son or daughter at home. So how have you grown to be a better son or daughter? Maybe you help out more at home. Maybe you've been talking to your parents more at the end of the day. Maybe you've been tutoring your siblings in their schoolwork. Ask yourself, how have I changed for the better at home? Maybe another role you fulfill is that of an athlete. If you play a sport, you might ask yourself, how have I grown and changed for the better as an athlete? Maybe you show up more punctually to practices. Maybe your mindset is healthier this year. Maybe you are more positive in your attitude toward practices and games. Maybe you are encouraging to your teammates. Maybe you are helpful to your coaches. You help to set up or put equipment away. How have you grown as an athlete? Now, some of the students I work with are in positions of leadership, like on ASB, student council, their church youth group. And so if you are in a position of leadership, ask yourself, how have I grown as a leader? How have I become a better leader? Am I more committed now to my responsibilities? Am I more responsible? Am I more inviting and outgoing and friendly toward the people that I serve? Am I more organized? Do I share my ideas more openly? Ask yourself, how have I grown in leadership? Okay, some of you might fulfill another role, and that is that of a Christian. That one, you guys, is so important that I'm actually going to dedicate one reflection question just to that one, okay? And to dedicate it to thinking about your spiritual growth this year. But for now, think about all the other ways that you might have changed for the better this year. And basically, the heart of this question is asking you, what do I respect and admire in other people? And how have I embodied some of those qualities? So it could be better time management, more self-controlled, more self-disciplined, more confident, more positive in my attitude. These are all things that you can count as growth this year. And then come back and we'll move into the second reflection question. Okay? The second reflection question is actually the opposite of the first. So instead of asking yourself, how have I changed for the better? You ask yourself, how have I changed for the worse? Is there any area in my life that has actually regressed or declined? The reason it's important for you to ask this harder question is because if you do notice that you're not going in the direction that you want to be going in, this is your chance to nip it in the bud. This is your chance to catch it, hopefully catching it early, so that you can redirect yourself and lead yourself in the direction that you do want to go in, okay? So ask yourself, is there anything in my life that I am not happy with? I am growing worse instead of growing better. So again, consider your different roles that you fulfill. You as a student, have I regressed as a student in any way? Maybe an attitude has become negative. Maybe there's a conflict with a teacher. Maybe there is some apathy happening where you just don't care anymore. Maybe not about every class, but maybe about 1 or 2 classes. Is there regression in terms of effort? You don't try anymore. Or maybe you're rushing through homework, or you're not studying enough for the tests and the quizzes and the finals, or you're turning in a rough draft of a paper instead of taking the time to revise it and give it your best shot. You know what you need as a student and where you are as a student. How about your roles at home as a son, a daughter, a brother, a sister? How has your attitude been at home? Are you helping out as you should? Are you having a good attitude? Are you sharing and talking to parents and your siblings and opening up and connecting with them intentionally at the end of the day? How have your relationships at home regressed, if they have? This is your time to consider those roles that you play. Okay, there's one more important aspect to this second reflection question, and that is, have I regressed in terms of managing my sins and overcoming temptation, resisting the devil? You guys, all of us have sins, and some of you may be struggling with a certain sin or have been going through it privately, and it's time to really bring somebody in to help you, to hold you accountable, to pray for you. And that is how we expose the darkness with light. We start telling the truth to ourselves and to other people. So I don't want you to not think about that aspect of your life, your relationship with sin and how you are managing the sins that you are facing. All of us have sin. It's normal to struggle with sin. But this is your opportunity to ask yourself, am I at a point where if I don't change a habit, change an action, change a behavior, this could really become a big problem in 2024. This is your opportunity to nip it in the bud, to call it out, see it for what it is, and to take back control over your body, over your brain, over your mind, your thoughts, your desires, your actions. Okay, so think about sin when you think about how might I have changed for the worse in any area of my life. All right, the third reflection question that I want you to think about and to write about in your journal is, how have I made a positive difference? How have I made a positive difference? There's a great quote that I want to share with you that says, leaders don't set out to lead. Leaders set out to make a difference, okay? So leadership is not valuable just for the sake of leadership. Leadership is valuable because leaders are the ones who actively, intentionally try to better people and better situations. They try to make a positive difference. So think about yourself as an emerging leader. How have you made a positive difference, even just a little bit, even just for one person? Who have you made a positive difference for? Okay, it might be a family member. It might be a friend. One of the students in my mastermind group said that he actively tried to pull one of his more introverted friends out of his shell. And now that friend is a lot more talkative, a lot more outgoing, a lot more socially comfortable. And that's awesome. That is a win. That is a positive difference that this student made for his friend. How about for you? What positive impact have you made to the people around you, to the activities that you're involved in? Maybe it's your team. Maybe it's your youth group. Could be your family. Could be your friend group. Could be your neighborhood, your cousins. Think about, what difference have I made? Did I bring in positive energy anywhere? Did I encourage certain people? Did I help to bring out the best in other people, and in whom? Okay, so ask yourself, did I make a positive difference? In what way and for whom? Now, the benefit of asking questions like this is you might think to yourself, I don't know if I made any kind of positive difference for anyone. I don't know that I've made an impact that actually mattered for anybody. And if that is your conclusion and it bothers you, great. This is why we need to reflect, because that is a light bulb that just went off to tell you that in the next year, in the new year, you want to be more of a difference maker. You want to have more of a positive impact on the people around you. And you can right now decide what that impact wants to be and who you want to impact next year. So go ahead and take it to the next level if you're concluding that you're not actually satisfied with the amount of difference that you made this year, and you actually have more in you. You have more to give. There's more to contribute. And for some reason, you didn't this year. You held back. And next year, you're going to go ahead and contribute more and serve more and offer more of what you have to offer. Okay, the fourth reflection question is going to be the toughest one, okay, but it's important. So in your journal, write down, what was the greatest challenge I faced this year? What was the greatest challenge that I faced this year? What would you answer? This might be a continuation of how did I change for the worse this year? So let's say it's a sin that you're really struggling with privately and you just feel kind of overwhelmed and defeated. That might be the greatest challenge that you faced and maybe still are facing this year. That's so good to know, right? Maybe the greatest challenge you faced this year was not making it onto a team that you tried out for. Maybe you didn't get the part that you wanted in the school play. Maybe you had a really bad fallout or a fight with a friend, or with a parent, or with a sibling, or an auntie, or an uncle, or a cousin. Maybe the greatest challenge you faced this year was failing a test that lowered your GPA that you couldn't do anything about. Or maybe your greatest challenge was mindset. Maybe you had so much negativity toward a class or toward a sport or toward an activity that you're committed to, and you just kind of let it take over and you really struggled to stay positive this year. So think about emotionally, what was the greatest challenge I faced, socially, academically, and spiritually. Okay, what was the greatest challenge that you faced? And I'm going to share this one quote with you from G.K. Chesterton because I think it really reframes the challenges that we face. The quote from author G.K. Chesterton goes, "Anything worth doing is worth doing badly. Anything worth doing is worth doing badly." So, to finish off this fourth reflection question, ask yourself, the things that were challenging this year, the things I did badly, were they worth doing? And why? Why were they worth doing badly? What did I get out of it? What did I learn from it? How did I grow from that experience? How did I grow from these challenges? Why did God allow me to face these challenges? How was I sanctified? How was I made more holy, more like Christ through these challenges? Okay, so ask yourself that question, and then we're gonna finish with the fifth reflection question. All right, this fifth and last reflection question You guys know there are a bajillion more questions that you can reflect on. I just picked 5, okay? So this last question is the one that has to do with your role as a Christian and how you have grown as a Christian. So the question is, do I love, know, and trust God more now in December than I did in January? Do I know, love, and trust God more now than I did at the start of the year? So think about your relationship with God. Think about your personal faith, your personal walk, your life of discipleship. Do you love God more? And ask yourself, why? What were the actions that led me to love God more? Did I go to church regularly? Did I go to youth group regularly? Did I participate more in youth group when I was there? Was I more focused when I listened to the sermons at church? Did I actually take some notes this year? Did I get involved with the worship team or the prayer team or the outreach team? What actions led to growth in love for God? What actions led to growth in trust of God? Maybe you journaled more this year and you have a record of how God has been faithful to you this year. And that's what caused you to love, know, and trust God more. Okay, so the opposite question needs to be asked too, right? Let's say you realize upon reflection that you don't know, love, and trust God more now than you did at the start of the year. Well, why is that? What actions, it's always actions, you guys, that lead to change. What didn't you do that led to a decline in your spiritual life? A weakened faith, maybe giving in more to temptation, not resisting the devil. Maybe you stopped going to church, or you stopped going to youth group, or you didn't go consistently, or when you were there, you were just, on your phone or fooling around with a friend and you weren't actually getting fed. What actions led to a weakened faith, a weakened relationship with God? And I'm going to push you here. Do you care? Are you going to do anything about it in the new year? What actions will you begin to take in order to change the trajectory of your relationship with God? Okay? That's what it means to lead yourself. It means to make choices and to take actions in the direction that you want to go in. All right, so that is the 5th reflection question. At the start of this video, I told you that at the end, I was going to address 3 benefits of reflection for those of you who haven't bought into reflection and might be interested now that you have heard the 5 reflection questions. So let me just quickly give you 3 benefits for regular reflection. And you know that the end of the year is a great ideal time to reflect, but you can reflect at the end of every week. You can reflect at the end of every day. I reflect at the beginning of every day, early in the morning, like between 5 and 6 a.m. That is my reflection time. And I'm always reflecting on just the day before, right? So reflection should become a regular rhythm in your life. That's the way you're going to get the most out of it. But let me present to you 3 reasons why I believe you should develop a habit of reflection. The first benefit of reflection is that it helps you to learn to be more self-aware. Self-awareness is huge, you guys, in terms of personal growth and leadership. If you are self-aware, that means you have a high emotional quotient. Do you guys know what an emotional quotient is? It's the other kind of intelligence. It's not the intelligence quotient, the IQ, but the EQ, the emotional quotient. And as leaders and as people, it's great for us to learn to be aware of ourselves. That means to know how we feel, be able to connect with our feelings, our emotions in order to master them so that they don't master us, right? You want to learn to use your feelings and use your emotions for the good, yours as well as others. And the only way to do that is to learn to slow down, to think back, to reflect, because that will help you to be present in the current moment. And then that knowledge will determine what actions and thoughts and choices you need to make in the future. And so self-awareness is developed when you reflect, when you sit down and you get in touch with your feelings, your emotions, your opinions, your ideas, your thoughts, and your interpretation of your own life. Okay? So reflection helps you to become a self-aware person and leader. The second benefit of reflection should be quite obvious if you went through those 5 reflective questions. And that is that reflection helps you to recognize how you have changed and how you have grown or not grown. Reflection gives you the opportunity to look back and to appreciate how far you've come, the journey you have just been on, and to make some choices about how you want to move forward in the future. The third and last benefit of reflection is super important as Christians because we don't want to just look back on the year and see the facts. We need to recenter our interpretation of the facts around the truth. So the third benefit of reflection is to recenter our interpretation of our lives around what is true with a capital T. And the truth is that God ordained all of the activities, all of the events that transpired this year. Do you believe that? Do you believe God was in complete and sovereign control this year over your life, over what you went through, over what happened and didn't happen? Do you believe that God was in control and that you were in His will? Let me just share a few verses with you from scripture in case you're not quite convinced that everything happens according to God's sovereign will. Proverbs 16:9. In his heart, a man plans his course, but the Lord determines his steps. We can plan our course, but God will determine each step that we get to take of that course. Proverbs 19:21. Many are the plans in a man's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. So we make our plans, and we should set our goals and write out our annual strategy for how to achieve those goals. But we realize that ultimately God's purpose in the world and in our lives is what is going to prevail. That is what is going to happen regardless of our plans. And that is a good thing. God's plans are always better than ours. And so these 2 verses show us that yes, we make our plans, we plan our steps, but God is the one who is going to ultimately make things come to pass according to His good and perfect and sovereign will. And if you want a short definition of the doctrine of God's providence, His provision for all of His creation, here is a definition that I presented to my mastermind group last week. And it says, providence is God's constant care and His absolute rule over all His creation for His own glory and the good of His people. If you're looking for more on the doctrine of providence, if you're fascinated by the idea that God is in control of all things at all times and that you are in His will and that all of the days of your life are ordained before one of them came to be, that's from Psalm 139. Read this book. It's by Jerry Bridges called Is God Really in Control? Is God Really in Control? The definition of providence that I just shared with you came from this book. Okay? I hope this video has been helpful for you. I hope you believe in the practice of reflection. If you are a leader and you want to be a leader, reflection is an executive leadership habit. All leaders are reflecting regularly, if not every 24 hours, if not at the end of every week or at the end of every month or at the end of every quarter. They are reflecting in December at the end of the year. And it is a very beautiful and valuable practice. And I hope you have enjoyed our little time of reflection today. If you want more reflection questions, just ask Google. There are a bajillion reflection questions that are worth asking and answering. And the more reflection you do, the better you're going to know yourself, the more self-awareness you're going to have of yourself. And that helps you to lead yourself well each and every day. All right, guys, if you've enjoyed this video, this is a part of a series called Core Qualities of Christian Leaders that I am developing for not only the mastermind students in my leadership groups, but for anybody in middle school or in high school who are actively looking for their life's calling and preparing themselves to fulfill that calling, even if you don't know all the details yet. You want to be prepared and you want to develop these leadership qualities so that when you know what God is calling you to do with your gifts, your strengths, your time, your talents, you're ready. You can jump right in and you've developed the character and some of the skills that you need to execute that mission successfully. Okay, guys, thanks for joining me today. I hope to see you in the next video.